favorite.
Let's give it okay. What else do you need?
Thank you.
Please, please, please. Try.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah. Over here.
Good morning.
Yeah. You got
Yeah?
it.
Okay.
This is too much ambient noise.
Okay. Oh. Bella, come on. Bella Boo. Yeah. Good girl. You do that or this one? Okay, just a minute. Let's do this one. What's that? Good? Okay. Good girl. Come on. All right, Bella. Bed. Down. Yeah. Sounds good to me.
I gotta see if I can make Dave happy. Worship associate this morning. Your announcements can be found in the order of service. There's that little QR code if you want to look them up on your phone. Maybe during the offertory as you're listening to the music. That's when I usually end up doing it. There's also the big blue sheets if you would rather have them in front of you. Those are available in the back from our greeters. We're trying to save a little bit of paper. Visitors, you are absolutely welcome downstairs for maybe the most important part of our communal time together, the coffee hour. We would love to see you. If you're a visitor, take a blue cup, and then the more introverted of us Unitarian Universalists will know that you're welcome for conversation. The old joke, I believe from my father, is an extroverted Unitarian Universalist looks at your shoes instead of their own shoes. Everyone is always welcome at any event, friends, family, folks who are just coming in and visiting us for the first time. Also, please sign in on the pink sheets in front of you. Make sure that we know you're here, and so that we can also find those who are not here. We want to thank Beth Conover for the fabulous flowers on our chancel this morning, and the Fireballs hospitality team. Yes, Miss Beth? And who put the beautiful mums out front? Yes, excellent. Thank you very much for the mums out front as well. Nice, thank you. The Fireballs hospitality team is serving you today. If you have any questions, please look for the folks with the green tag. We do have a caring note. Joe Schaff's mother, Jeannie Schaff, passed away yesterday. He and Lori are here with us today to be a part of his community and for healing. More information will be out to the congregation when we know more. And there won't be a service specifically for Sid Wilson, but there will be a concert in his honor in April. More information as we come to that. Do look for the team fair this afternoon. There's lots of ways for you to help out, and we need your services, so please find a way for you to come and volunteer with any of the groups in the church that would feed your soul. And remember to sign up for the annual dinner. Sign up early. And the AHAs, the Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics, have asked us to let you know about their Many Beliefs, One Congregation event that will be Thursday, November 8th. It is Bring Your Own Dinner. But there will be lots of soul-feeding conversation and small groups as well. Sherry Connor can give you more. Welcome, and we're very glad you're here this morning.
Whoever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you find yourself on your life's journey, whether you've walked in or rolled in, whomever you love, you are welcome here. all that we have ever loved, and all that we have ever been stands with us on the edge of all that we aspire to create: a deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share.
Do I have any risk takers who will come light the chalice with me this morning? Yeah, I see a couple coming up. Come on. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Ooh. I almost caught it. It was almost cool, but then it wasn't. Hi, come on up. Please rise in body or in spirit for the lighting of our chalice. All right, you ready, ladies? Please remain standing for our hymn number 358 in the gray hymnal. Can I have all the young and young at heart? Come on up. And some young at heart already here. Welcome. Hi, guys. Hello. Hello. So today the adults are going to be talking about memory. And I found a story that's relatively new. It's actually from the Unitarian tradition. And it's called the Memory Table. So I thought I would tell that story today. So Stephen dragged his backpack home after a long day and up the hill to the unfamiliar new house that he was living in. And the house didn't greet him like his old house greeted him. It looked different and weird. He didn't know most of the kids in his new school, didn't know their faces, didn't know what the teachers liked and didn't like. And he trudged up the hill to this new house, and he opened the door, and he threw down his backpack, and he slammed the door, and he said, "That door doesn't even slam like my old door slammed." And he was just pretty much miserable about everything. But his mom greeted him at the door with a huge hug. And her after-school hug did feel like the old after-school hugs. So that was pretty close to how it used to be. And then he smelled something familiar in the kitchen. "Are those peanut butter cookies?" he said to his mother. And she said, "Super Sniffer. Yes, indeed. They are the same recipe your grandmother used, and they are ready for you in the kitchen." Well, he almost got out of his funk at that moment as he raced down the hallway, yelling, "Super Sniffer to the rescue!" knowing that his super mouth would be able to eat more cookies than any other mouth. And he ran into the kitchen, and he was expecting half-opened boxes and all this packing tape, but the kitchen had been put back away. All the things were in the cupboard. There were no half-opened boxes. It kind of looked like a real kitchen. And he looked over in the corner, and there was his old table. And it was just like it was at his house. So we went over to inspect it, and yes, there was the big red Sharpie mark from when he was first learning to color and didn't know to use paper. And there was the blue stain from the first time he had dyed Easter eggs. And his mom had put out the napkin holder that he had made at day camp. And even the chalice that he had made at his old Unitarian church. So maybe things were starting to look up a little bit. So he sat down in his spot at his dining room table, kitchen table actually, with his mom sitting in her correct spot at the kitchen table. And they had ice cold milk and warm peanut butter cookies. And Mom said, "You know, I know you've been a little bit sad that things haven't been the same. How did today go?" He said, "Well, today wasn't the best, but this is pretty nice. Do you think that we can all sit at this table today and say the same evening prayer that we always say together using my Unitarian chalice?" She said, Yeah, we can do that. Some of our traditions will continue to be the same." And he started to feel just a little bit better. And it's amazing how little things like that can bring back so many memories, right? I lost my mom about a year ago, and she was a humanist, and she believed that the only way that people stay alive is by our memories of them. So I have a little memory scavenger hunt just like Stephen does. I wear this necklace every day that is just like the one that my mom always wore. And in fact, when I come to church on Sundays, I can see Carolyn McNamara wearing my mother's actual necklace that she gave to Carolyn. and I can remember her and the things that we did. I remember the way that she opened Christmas presents, and I remember her laugh in church, often at inappropriate times. And I can see her sitting out at that bench right out there, smoking, unfortunately, bad influence that she was, with Ron Knapp. Our minister emeritus, yep. So today I want you to do a memory scavenger hunt, because there are so many things in your house that can bring back all of your memories. Is there a place on your walls that you drew when you were 2 years old and should not have drawn, and it hasn't quite been able to be removed off the walls? I see a couple of hands up, I'm afraid. Is there a book that your family always read? I think of my mom when we read Monster at the end of this book with Grover from Sesame Street. Is there a TV show that you always watch with your best friend, or a movie that you watched over and over and over and over again that all your parents could say every single word in? You have one of those, Reagan Leaf? What scary movie do you watch over and over again? Do you not remember the name? It's too scary to mention, but there is one that is watched over and over again. Adults may ask her later, but it's too scary for kids. What about you? A Wrinkle in Time, over and over and over again. So go on a memory scavenger hunt today. Is there a special cup that you always use? Is there a special place in the living room that has your Tookus print in it, because that's where you always sit? Go through your house and find all of those special memories this week, all right? We are excited for you to head to class, and maybe there's some things in the classroom that bring back special memories for you too. Today's reading is by Lynn Gardner. Can you hear them? Can you hear the whispers of our ancestors? We remember. Their stories are in these walls, in our bones, and in the air that we breathe, in remembered faces. We hear the whispers of our ancestors, how their stories touched our lives and called us into being. Dave Richardson will give us the Heritage Minute.
Today's Heritage Minute is from a mere 2 years ago. It was on the 6th of November that the newly restored church foyer was dedicated. The restoration is testimony to the commitment of the congregation to the preservation of our building. It is also a reminder of the tireless efforts of people like the late Dean Christensen, who not only helped spearhead the project, but contributed his talents and time to make it happen.
That's the license number. It has a synchronized sticker on it. And it's blocking the dumpster, and the trash man is here, and he can only wait a few minutes.
Okay. A little diversion from the beautiful atmosphere the choir has set forward for us. There is a blue Subaru blocking the dumpster, and the trash man can only wait for a minute. It's VIC 672, and it has a Central High School sticker. I have not had that one happen during service before. Please join me in a time of meditation. Find a comfortable place in your seat. Plant your feet firmly on the floor so that you may feel more grounded, connected to the earth which nourishes and sustains us all. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, and take a deep breath in. They are with us still. In the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us. It is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them, choose the deeper path of living. Amen.
As our ancestors have done, and their ancestors before them, so too do we give out of our own labors to that which we find to be the most worthy, the sustenance, nourishment, and support of this beloved community of faith and its living tradition. If you are new or visiting with us today, please allow the plate to pass you by. You are our guests. This morning's offering will now be received.
The reading this morning is by Alice Walker. To acknowledge our ancestors means that we are aware we did not make ourselves, that the line stretches all the way back, perhaps to God or to the gods. We remember then because it is an easy thing to forget that we are not the first to suffer, rebel, fight, love, and die. The grace with which we embrace life, in spite of the pain, the sorrows, is always a measure of what has gone before. Can you hear them? Can you hear the whispers of the ancestors? They are calling your name. They are calling your name. Janet, Dave, Pat, Kate, Douglas, Edith, Sherry. Their stories are in these walls. Their stories in our bones. Their stories are in the air we breathe. We hear the whispers of our ancestors, the ancestors who call us into becoming. I don't consider myself a mystic. I've only had a handful of experiences over the course of my lifetime that would qualify. But I would like to share one of them with you this morning. This happened way back when I was in college as an undergrad. I was taking a class called Music for Dance. My professor had traveled throughout Africa and learned how to drum from the people there, directly taught. And he brought what he learned back to us. There are some really important things that have stuck with me over the years that I have learned from that class. One is about the difference in how we experience music and dance from the East and from the West and from Africa, different parts of the world. Here in the West, we like to think that there are performers and audiences, right? Not so in most traditional cultures in Africa. The music and the dance are one and the same, and they happen all together, often with the drummers in a big circle and the dancers in the middle. And they don't have songs that are limited to 3.5 to 5 minutes. When we drummed, I think the shortest time we ever drummed was probably 45 minutes. If you can imagine 30, 40 people drumming the same repetition. I mean, there were multiple parts, but over and over and over again. We think we're stretching ourselves when we do a round in 3 verses, right? Because we can't go past those 5 minutes. But over and over again, 45 minutes, an hour. And in the beginning of the class, he taught us that often people have these experiences during these rituals where they hear voices. Not people who are singing, not people who are in the room, more of a mystical experience. They hear voices of people we don't see, that aren't really there. So I thought, okay, I believe that. I believe that people in other cultures have these types of experiences and that they were genuine and authentic to them. I was an anthropology major after all, right? I got this stuff. I loved it. But what I didn't believe is that it would ever happen to me, that I could ever be a part of that. Until one day in class when we were drumming, you can picture where we were. It was a studio, probably as big as this room, a dance studio. We were in a giant circle, and one side had a wall of windows, No spaces like we have here, just all windows looking out into the trees and the green beyond, similar to our scene here. And as we drummed, this was well into it, probably maybe 20 minutes at least, I heard these voices. They sounded like children's voices. And they kept calling. They were so happy, and they kept calling. And it felt like they were calling to me. And what they kept saying was, Callie, Callie, Callie. That's not my name. It's not a word I know. I didn't know where that was coming from. But it was wonderful, and I didn't want it to stop. And it lasted for as long as we played. It was amazing. But I didn't know what it had meant, at least not yet. I felt like I was being called to. But it wasn't until a few months later, when I graduated and went to work on a living history farm and was given the name Callie, that I understood. I worked with plenty of adults. We did bus tours. I worked with lots of families, but tons and tons of school groups. I can't tell you how many times I heard, Callie, Callie. It was an amazing experience, one I can only describe as mystical now, and very outside of my comfort zone, my usual tradition. What I want to say this morning is that we UUs have a tradition too. It's a living tradition. Remember the song we sang when we first got here today? Rank by rank, again we stand. You can open your hymnals if you want to. It's number 358. Part of our tradition is that we sing that hymn as an entrance song every year at General Assembly at the start of the service of the living tradition, which is when new ministers are formally welcomed and fellowshipped, where preliminary ministers are welcomed into final fellowship, where our retiring ministers are celebrated, and where our deceased ministers are memorialized. It's also sung often, it was at mine, as an entrance song for ordinations and installations. One I envision you having here in a couple of years when you call your new settled minister. You'll have an installation for him or her or them. So I want you to take a moment and either look at or listen to the words of this hymn and choose a phrase, 3 or 4 words that really resonate with you. Just one that kind of leaps off of the page or shakes you up a little, or that you can't just let go. Rank by rank, again we stand, from the 4 winds gathered hither. Loud the hallowed walls demand, whence we come and how and whither. From their stillness breaking clear, echoes wake to warn or hear. Cheer. Higher truth from saint and seer, call to us assembled here. Ours the year's memorial store, honored days and names we reckon, days of comrades gone before, lives that speak and deeds that beckon, from the dreaming of the night to the labors of the day, shines their everlasting light, guiding us upon our way. Though the path be hard and long, still we strive in expectation. Join we now their ageless song, one with them in aspiration. One in name, in honor one, guard as well the crown we won. What they dreamed be ours to do, hope their hopes and seal them true. Would anyone be willing to share the phrase that you chose? Larry. Names, the lives that have gone before. Anyone else want to share your phrase? Carolyn. What they dreamed be ours to do. How about two more? Anyone else? Though the path be hard and long. Shines their everlasting light, guiding us upon their way. Someone once told me that our musicians are the best theologians. I believe it. I think it's true, absolutely. This morning, we're talking about memory. That's our Soul Matters theme for the month. So I would like to invite you to live with these words this week, with the phrase that you chose, your phrase, the one that really resonated with you. Go deep. Live with them. Write about them. Talk about them. Meditate upon them. What do these words mean to you? Choose someone you trust, perhaps your spouse or a friend or someone in your Soul Matters group, and talk about the phrase you choose. Did they choose a different phrase from you? Why? Did your spouse or your friend choose different words? And why did they choose their phrase? What did it mean to them? Listen deeply and in silence. Wait until they are done before you start asking questions and discussing back and forth. Observe what happens. Do hearing their thoughts or perspectives change your own? Deepen your own understanding of your own philosophy or theology that is emerging from these words? You use, you could tell me what happens later if you want to. I would love to hear them. We use have our own common cultural ancestors. So we may not be direct descendants, biological descendants, right? There are so many of us who are come-outers. We join Unitarian Universalism or find Unitarian Universalism as we become adults and are able to seek on our own. But in any case, we still have these stories. We have these traditions. We have this culture. Not just in this church, but in UU congregations across the country and around the world. What does it really mean to be a UU? And when we tell our stories, who do we remember? And who have we forgotten? Which stories have grown into legend? Where have we lost the factual truth, only to have gained a greater truth what are our myths? And I don't mean myth as in falsehood. I mean myth as in a story that informs your worldview. For example, the story of Thomas Potter and John Murray. And if you don't know the story, I'll invite you to find it out this week. We have our cultural heroes, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, transcendentalists, abolitionists of all kinds. Theodore Parker, who was a member of the Silent Six, who silently funded the rebellion at Harper's Ferry. John Brown's Raid. The Martyrs from Selma, James Reeb and Viola Liozzo. Today, though, I'd like to talk about someone closer to home. Hi. Down. Down. Okay, good girl, stay. Not Bella, but she was feeling left out, so. I want to talk about Henry Bond. Who knows who he is? Who remembers? I know you do. Dave Richardson, who's Henry's Bond?
The first minister of the First Unitarian Church.
He was. And he left after how long? Not too long. 2 years to go and serve the Ute Indians on a reservation in Colorado. Work that I'm convinced he thought was good and worthy. Work that was also done on the premise of thinking that we Christians had to civilize the natives and teach them how to live moral lives, right? What I want to lift up about his story, there are many stories that can be told about him and many ways in which his story can be told. Some of them may be factually true. Some of them may not be. I honestly can't tell the difference. Henry Bond, I first learned about when I was in seminary. I was taking a UU history class, and I was so excited to hear there was this UU Unitarian minister who was sent out to a reservation and eventually got fired because he thought the natives were doing just fine on their own. I hope that one's true. But I did some research for this sermon, and there are lots of stories about him out there, including that he suddenly disappeared after some of the cattle funds diminished. He also went on later in his life to found a school called Bond's Mission. It was a school for Native children on the Crow Reservation. Some sources say Montana, some say Wyoming. I didn't look it up to see exactly where he went, but it's interesting that we can't even get the state right? And there he was said to have a zeal for justice for the original Americans. That's a direct quote. So what is the true story in there? I think it is that we try, that we succeed and we fail sometimes. In 2009, our president, Bill Sinkford, at our General Assembly at Salt Lake City in Utah, issued a formal apology to the Ute natives in an effort to move toward repair and reconciliation. And there were 2 representatives from the tribe who were there and who accepted the apology and then offered a prayer in the Ute language, which thankfully still exists. That's not true of all Native groups. The phrase that has been echoing in my heart and mind this past week is what they dreamed to be ours to do, along with questions Many, many, many questions. History has shown us that we Unitarians and Universalists have been part of the problem and part of the solution. Part of the solution and part of the problem. In our efforts to help others, to increase justice, to create a better world, we strive and we fail, or only partially succeed. We strive again, and we fail or partially succeed again. But what they dreamed, we shall do. As imperfectly as it was attempted in the past, we will keep trying. The real sin here, is if, because of all this, we stopped trying. We stopped trying to make our world a better place, make our congregations more loving places. It's work that we must continue. So one of the things that I want to leave with you is the idea that this work is too large. It's too large for any one of us to complete in our lifetime. It's too large for any generation to complete in a lifetime. But there's no need for despair. More people will come after us, and they will work to make our dreams come true. Someday, we will be the ancestors. How will we be remembered? What will our descendants, the UUs of the future, say of us? What stories will they tell? How will we be judged for our failures and accomplishments? What will we have made of our time here? What will we leave undone? What will our descendants say we did well? I know what my answer is. What is yours? Go now in peace. Live your lives well. Love better. Find that elusive truth. Keep kindness on your lips. Keep love in your heart. Keep compassion at your fingertips. Our worship has ended. Now our service begins. Amen.